everybody. We are doing another international broadcast for you, and this time it's the longest to date, several times over probably, because Craig Hester is live with us here at TAW Exclusive. We are live at the Hong Kong Watch and Clock Fair. So, Craig, good morning to you. Thank you for doing this.
Hey, Tim. Yeah, thanks. It's fun. Actually, this is my last day here. It's been quite interesting. I'm trying to think how to describe the Hong Kong Fair to everybody. The interesting thing, and you know this, Tim, is people don't talk about this fair nearly as much as, say, Basel. And there's a lot of reasons for that. First of all, this is much more what I would call inside baseball. This is the fair that people come to buy components, straps, packaging. It is primarily for people who build watches, or things related to watches, where they want to put together the components that they need. And one of the things I want to say right up front, that's a misconception about the Hong Kong Fair, is that everything here, you're coming here just to source products from Hong Kong.
From Hong Kong,
that is
yeah.
absolutely not true. There are many suppliers here. In fact, there's a Swiss hall, which we'll go to later. Oh, by the way, Flavio's there, just so you know. I'm going to go see
Hi.
him. Obviously, right here, we're looking at the Seiko Group. This is Japan. There are obviously things you can source here from Hong Kong and even from the mainland, but there are suppliers from all over the world. I do want to mention, too, that some places around here do not like you filming because they are protecting their intellectual property. So if somebody pushes me away or I get a funny look and have to move on, I'm just going to let you know. But
Yeah,
nothing
no worries.
here in the Seiko booth is proprietary. This is standard stuff that you would see from Seiko. Obviously, no surprise, the reason that Seiko is here is to sell movements. Watch manufacturers who are coming to the Hong Kong show are looking for movements for their watches. I find this fascinating here, Tim. They created a larger, actually, there are some brands in the world that would make a watch that this movement would fit in.
That's true.
But I'm sure I couldn't wear it. Do you mind? Is this okay? Okay. Some places don't want you to, so I don't want to. This is an exploded view of the NE88 chronograph. Now, our folks will know this movement, but because the first watch in the world outside of a Seiko watch, or an SII watch, this is TMI time module here, that ever had this movement was the Vostok Europe 10th anniversary chronograph, to have
That's right.
the column wheel chronograph movement. And I'm not going to get into a whole lot of technical details here, Tim, because this is more about just showing folks what's happening at the Hong Kong Fair. But real quickly, if you're not familiar with what a column wheel is, it's different than a cam-driven chronograph. The most famous of the cam-driven chronographs would be the 7750, of course, and that's where it has the two plates that slide back and forth when you start the chronograph, and that's why you get that little jump at the start with the second hand, as you're very familiar with. On the column wheel, you have exactly what it sounds like, a wheel where a hammer is then activated when you start the chronograph, and it has this whisper smooth start of the chronograph. Now, obviously, the 7750 is iconic, and everybody, covets and loves the 7750. But I will tell you, I've spoken to many watchmakers who say that the NE88 from Seiko is as good or better than the 7750. So these are movements that anybody who is into our watches is going to be familiar with. Over here, we have obviously I would say at this point, probably the most popular movement in the world, outside of maybe the 2824, but I can't imagine that SII is not selling more NH35s than 2824s are being sold. So they make the NH35. That is the standard bearer. You see it in many watches. Have we used it in Francis? Yes, the Berlin Wall, of course, has the NH35 in it.
What's the ETA
Vostok
on that, by the way?
End of September. Okay, so here's Seiko instruments. And, I want to show you let's see, where are they? The NE movements. Oh, I got to go back over here. So the NE movements, that's where the NE88, but there's some others here. The NE57 is a beautiful power reserve movement. You have the NE86, which is a 2i instead of the 3i chronograph. I want to mention, and I'm not going to say which movement, and I'm not going to say in what watch, but within the next year, Vostok Europe is going to be coming out with another watch. Now, not an NE88. They've already done that. They're going to be coming out with another watch with one of the NE movements. And I've seen the, oh what's the word I'm looking for? The renderings, the pre-production renderings, and it is stunning. You guys are going to love it, and that'll be 2019 at this point. No way that's coming out in 2018. So, Seiko TMI is here now. There actually are two companies, two different companies. You're familiar with Seiko TMI, or what you would think of as what you call SII, and that's where those automatic movements are made. And then there's Seiko Epson, which I'm headed over to right now. And that is the manufacturer of all the quartz movements that you see, especially the ones that Igor has been using at Vostok Europe with the multi-functions, the YM series, that have just so many cool functions. As I always say, there are quartz movements and there are quartz movements. The quartz movements that Epson makes are just, they're top of the line. They're hybrid movements with jewels, with mechanical parts, beautiful sweeps, multi-functions. I'm not going to dig into the individual movements here, but one of the things that I do really like about Vostok Europe's relationship with, and by the way, I'm not going to mention who it was, but there was another micro brand manufacturer here that I met the other day, and he was jealous of the fact that Igor has been able to get some of the movements from SII that aren't available to other manufacturers. He's like, I wish I had that hookup. So,
Yeah,
because what they do,
I think a lot of times in the world of horology and building watches, microbrand and otherwise, in my experience, it sometimes does come down to relationships. I mean, we were just talking about that the other day with the partnership with TAW and Hotbid. And sometimes it is, if you've forged a relationship over the years, it can really make a significant difference. And of course, you and I both know on a personal level that that Igor is such just a terrific person, as well as businessman and watch visionary. You could see where someone like that would have that sort of clout, be able to put it together a deal like that.
Well, the thing is, they trust him. They know that when he tells them, like, if they say you can't use it this way, or we don't want you to do this, we only want it released here, or whatever. These are not things I'm
exactly
speaking to actual events. I'm just talking about how I know how Igor works. They know, and the other thing they know too, and this gets back to the caliber of construction that Vostok Europe has, and the level of things that they do that other brand. Here's Ronda. Okay, so, and they actually do now have their own automatic movement. Ronda Swiss. But what I wanted to say earlier about part of why Seiko, or SII, I'm talking about in particular, although he has a great relationship with Epson as well, part of why they trust Igor so much is, what they're wanting to do when they do this with him is they want to release the movement to him, not him, but to Vostok Europe, before they then offer it to other watch manufacturers. And they use Vostok Europe as like their testing ground. And part of why Vostok Europe has such a value to them is those 7 full-time watchmakers that they have on staff there. And they know that they're going to get real technical feedback, because it's one thing to build your own movement and put it in your own watches. And everyone in your organization is hyper familiar with all of the components of the watches you build and the movement you're building. It's very different than to export that movement out to another watch manufacturer, and then they put it in their own watch. So they use Vostok Europe as a proving ground for how are our movements going to engage with the components and designs and so forth. This is a really great exploded view of the NE88 as well.
That is a great view
of other watch manufacturers. So I just wanted to get that out because I think that's a great part of the story. To answer your question, well, first of all, comparing to Basel, there's so many things. First of all, getting back to what this fair is, there are very few, actually I'm going to walk back to brands there are very few actual finished brands here. Brands do display here, I want to be clear, and they do look for distributors and retailers and other options to distribute and sell their watches around the world. But that is not primarily the function of the Hong Kong Watch Fair. The primary function here is you're going to find manufacturers of individual components, straps, packaging, cases, hands, dials. Now, another thing that you find here that you do not see in Basel, at least I've never seen it in Basel. I don't know if it's that Basel doesn't want it or that people maybe keep it in the back. I don't know. But what you see here is a lot of OEM. And what that means, and just the term you use, Tim, is what we call label slapping.
Mm-hmm.
There are tons of manufacturers here who build cases. They build watches, basically. They design and build their own watches. And then you can come and say, I want that. And then you just put your logo on it. And you had nothing to do with the design of it. You had nothing to do with the creation of it. You just put your label on it to sell a watch. Now, I want to be clear in the standard Seinfeld way. Not that there's anything wrong with that. If that's what you want to do, fine. It's a real business. It's legitimate. And I will tell you, this has been fascinating to me, Tim, is the level of difference in quality and design that I have seen in those watches here. You can get everything from the simplest, most inexpensive three-hand quartz that you put your name on to some of these companies. Some of these Hong Kong-based companies have done some beautiful designs that are clearly made of quality material, 316 stainless steel, sapphire crystals. They're beautiful watches. They're still designed for other brands to put their logo on, but they're really, really cool watches. So you get everything here, from something that you could build a watch that you could literally sell for $10 to a watch you could sell for 10,000. Well, you wouldn't do OEM for 10,000, but you know what I mean.
Right. And for those of you in the audience that don't know, I mean, Hong Kong has frankly, it has some of the best watch labs and clean rooms in the world. Uh,
Absolutely.
and
Well,
I'll give you a stellar example. You look at generation one and two of exoskeleton, just astonishing work. So my point is simply this: I think it's much of a misnomer now that if you go to Hong Kong, you by definition are looking at something that's poorly made or inexpensive. I do think there's an argument to be made that mainland China is still kind of propping that up to some extent. But Hong Kong, I think by competition alone, has really proven to be some outstanding talent.
you took the words right out of my mouth, and I'll get back to that in just a second. I just want to show you, you're very familiar here, Spinnaker,
Oh
solar
yeah,
time company, B8. They have AV8 ballast, Spinnaker. You've
yeah, I
sold,
know those guys. Yeah, go in and say hi for me.
I will, but I'll
Well,
come
not
back to these.
now, but
Yeah. No, but maybe
or
I'll stop
now.
by.
Now that I think about it.
Not right this minute, because you just made a point and you took the words right out of my mouth that is so important. Hong Kong is not a four-letter word anymore. It, they are doing some amazing watch work here, and I am totally about, what's the word? When you, oh, I can't think of the stupid word.
That
Oh,
base.
I'm about total transparency. My Pramsius watches I work with companies in Hong Kong. I mean, obviously the movements are Japanese, and well, we did a Swiss movement in the Swiss package for the Berlin Wall, but I'm working with Hong Kong companies when I'm building my watches. They've done fabulous work for me. The Berlin Wall is so well built, and I'm completely happy with the quality of the construction. I've found the people that I've worked with to be exceptionally professional, to be very flexible about what I want if I'm not happy with this. As I just said a few minutes ago, as we were putting together the Berlin Wall, and we started looking at the chapter ring, we weren't happy with the loom. They didn't try to pass that off on me. They didn't try to say, "Oh, it's okay. It'll work. Don't worry about it." Um, you know, they knew, we both knew it wasn't me. We sent it back for reproduction. So Hong Kong is not a four-letter word anymore. But to make it clear, there, again, this fair is primarily about sourcing. But like I said, it's materials from Hong Kong. It's Swiss materials. There are several strap companies I've been looking at here that build their straps in Italy, some that are based in the U.S. Um, in fact, Italian leather for Vostok Europe.
Yeah, I don't have a point of reference. I've only been to the one show, but Igor, who's been here 20 times,
Wow.
told me that that it's definitely gotten smaller. I think that's happening to all shows. The internet. Look at what we're doing right now, Tim. You're in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm standing in the middle of central Hong Kong, and you and I are doing a live video together. I mean, this kind of thing, 20 years ago, this would have been a $300,000 investment to make this happen.
Oh yeah, I mean literally lights,
And
camera, action with a crew and a lot of permits and
right,
permissions, and you got to buy time on the bird and put everybody over
yeah,
there. I mean,
I'm standing here with And granted, I'm not going to make an argument that this is, Hollywood quality video we're doing here, but I'm standing here with a gimbal and a cell phone, and you and I are looking at all this. So the world has changed, but I'm a firm believer. I got to tell you, since we're just kind of, it's just for fun and we're prattling on, and people can watch or not watch as much of this as they want to, I am still a firm believer. That is why I go to these shows. That's why I go to Basel. That's why we still do JCK. That's why I came here. I did not feel like, 2 years in as a manufacturer of watches, that I could afford not to come to the Hong Kong Watch Fair. And every time I do any of these shows, something always happens, some connection, some experience, some information. There's always something that makes it totally worth the trip that would never have happened if I weren't there in person. So I actually lament the diminishment of the face-to-face conventions like this. I think they bring an opportunity for serendipity that you just don't get through the internet.
I've never been to, be it Hong Kong or Basel or JCK for that matter, that I haven't come away with at least one significant connection that I did not have prior to that event.
Absolutely. It is smaller. I would argue that certainly not as prestigious. I would say, Tim, but here's the interesting thing. The mere fact that you and I are doing this video shows what has changed in the industry in the past few years. If 10, 15 years ago, if you were a watch manufacturer, you wouldn't want anybody to know you even went to the Hong Kong Watch Fair. It would be your dirty little secret, that you work with Hong Kong.
Yeah, I can remember to that point, Craig, very quickly, and I want you to continue. I visited some time ago. I went over in when was it? 2008, and I was running into people there that would actually start to run away from me, and then realize that would be worse, and then they would have to fess up, like I've caught them in this horrible thing, and every one of them I already knew. And they were laboring under this delusion that I was somehow believing that uniquely Swiss gnomes were putting all this together. And I've always remembered that as an odd, has that happened to you out there? But I guess now in 2018, 10 years hence, maybe not so much.
No. First of all, everybody, and I'm talking high-end Swiss companies as well, sources from Hong Kong. Something, whether it's the bracelet, whether it's just the hands, who knows? Now, I'm not talking the Patek Philippe's and the Vacheron and Constantines of the world and the Breguets, these handmade watches that go for, unbelievable amounts of money. But, it is not a stigma anymore. And as you and I were talking about earlier, there are every quality level you want. You can get cases, bracelets, dials. Look, that marble dial now the marble didn't come from Hong Kong. They sourced the marble. Where did we source that marble? I think it was Italian sourced marble. But they did the cutting and everything of the marble here in Hong Kong, and it's a beautiful marble dial. You would think I'd be bragging about the fact that we sourced Italian marble, but anyway, that tells you how much I love the Berlin Wall. That the story with it, that I'm not even worried about the fact that it's Italian marble.
Yeah, that is a gorgeous watch, by the way.
But you can get every level of quality. If you want grade A, I mean, here's the thing, Tim. Grade A is grade A. It's either going to pass a grade A test or it's not. The humidity here is off the charts. I've lost like 10 pounds in water weight. And I'm drinking more water here. You know that 8 glasses a day thing that's everybody knows isn't real? I think I passed that since I've been here in Hong Kong. So anyway, if you want to make a $10 watch, you can source a $10 watch here. If you want to make a $2,000 watch, and I'm just pulling numbers out of the air, you can source that here. It's all about what you want to put in as far as quality. Now, here's the other thing too. This is why I stress the fact that there are component manufacturers here from all over the world. I don't know. Igor could speak to this better than I could, having spent as many years as he has coming to this show. I would assume that in the past, there's Fila, the primary brands here, manufacturers here were Hong Kong, if not mainland China. But as the fair, this is me speculating. I'm assuming that the addition of more Swiss companies here that make components, Italian leather, so forth and so on, has come from the fact that a lot of watch brands, what they do today is, okay, I like this case manufacturer, just the case in Hong Kong. I'm going to build that case there. I'm going to design that case with them. I'm going to build that case. But I like Swiss leather, or I like Italian leather, or I want high-end Italian leather packaging. And I'm not going to get that from Hong Kong, but I might get my hands and my dial, you know. So that's what this is all about, really. So you remember we were talking earlier, Tim, about how, well, the Hong Kong Watch Fair is not just about sourcing components, and it is not just about, say, your $10 OEM watch. Here's some names here you might be familiar with. Let's see, Zenith, Piaget, Jacob and Company, Lachute, Frank Mueller, Corum, Chopard, Breguet, Blancpain, all of these brands at the Hong Kong Watch and Jewelry Fair. Now, let's be clear, they don't each have an individual booth like you would see in Basel where they have the big booths, but they have a presence here. So that tells you something right now, right there. They wouldn't be here if this wasn't of value to them, if they didn't know they were going to have the kind of clientele that they're looking for at the Hong Kong Watch and Jewelry Fair. Look at this beautiful on Breguet. I have to show this. I love Breguet. Their watches are just...
Yeah, I think they're arguably the finest dial work in the world in a brand,
Yeah.
you know, excluding the one-offs by artists.
Yeah, I know I'm not doing this justice at all with the shooting this the way we are, but yeah, if money were no object in my life, I would definitely own a Breguet. So you've got, and here's a section over here, wearable tech. Obviously, that's something in the relative. I can tell you right now, as somebody who does displays, whatever they spent to put this thing together right here is more than most companies have in revenue in a year. So this is upstairs from where we were, and then there's another. And I don't know if the guys will be interested in this, but I can go over there. There's another hall where they have mostly packaging. So if you're looking for basically any kind of packaging, leather, MDF, wood, and displays, retailer displays. If you're looking for any kind of packaging, you can find it here. Metal. In fact, for the Iron Wolf watch, I want to do a case that's going to look a lot like a metal ammo holder. And I'm hoping I can find something here today. A company, actually, Zviad recommended a company to me, of Secolia watches, which we carry as well. Here's Ice Watch, Doxa's here. Oh, Deep Blue's got a booth here. I'll go back over there in a minute.
Oh, please do.
So another one of the interesting things, Tim, and I know there's a lot of watch bloggers, and there's a ton of watch magazines. Obviously, I'm editor of About Time magazine and so forth, but I'm going to make an assumption that most of them don't cover the Hong Kong Watch Fair like you and I are doing right here in just this kind of impromptu video we're doing. Because to use the phrase I keep using, it's really, it's inside baseball. Our viewers, yours and mine, are getting, and I'm going to put this on the Vostok Europe Timepieces group on Facebook, they're getting a view of the Hong Kong Watch and Clock Fair that, most people outside of the industry just really never see. In the past, as we said earlier, because people didn't want you to know they were here. And now, again, because this is very much an insider's fair. But as you said earlier, I think Hong Kong is becoming more and more important. Asia is where the emerging markets are. More and more of China and other Asian countries, more and more of their population are becoming middle to upper class, and they've got more money to spend on things like watches, So now, as mentioned earlier, Deep Blue. You guys are familiar with Deep Blue. TAW has sold Deep Blue for years. Years. You guys have been around a couple of years, but anyway, sold Deep Blue for quite a while now. This says a lot right here that Deep Blue is exhibiting in Hong Kong. He wouldn't be spending this kind of money. Stan, and believe me, you and I know, Stan would not be spending money if he didn't think he was going to get a return out of that investment. Let me see if I got the map here.
Oh, this is awesome.
All right, so, yeah, well, that's interesting. You know what I'll do? Just make a sweep down the map. You can see some of the names here. Some of them you'll never have heard of because they're people who make things that,
Wow, look at that. Bentley, Blancpain we saw. Par. That's a really impressive lineup.
Yeah, I'd say so. And I'm only halfway through the list. So our friend with the Leonardo da Vinci watches,
Yes.
Mechanica Pezza, is at 3ES07. So let's figure out where that is and go see Flavio. And you can see me sweating like a pig.
Awesome.
I am wearing lighter clothes next year. God, the humidity here. To be honest with you, I am surprised I don't have anybody yelling at me about walking around with this camera. I keep waiting for some security guard to come up and say, dude, you can't be doing that.
I can remember when it was totally verboten in Basel, and now they're actually kind of grateful that you're in there doing it.
There's Doxa. They got a great look at that.
Wow, that's nice.
Look at that. Oh, man, the resolution on that. You know how much that screen costs. Good Lord.
And this is another indication because, and I understand why, people refer to these as booths, and some of them are the more traditional, but some of them are basically small buildings.
Well, you know, that's one of the things I always say to people about Basel. When they first ask me about Basel, I tell them it's like no trade show you've ever been to. This is not like Vegas. It's not, you know, it's not pipe and drape, although Vegas has actually grown to be more, where they have more booths along these lines too. But, you know, this is not, it's like walking through a shopping mall. Now I'm at the Swiss Independent Watchmaking Pavilion, and this is inside the hall we've been talking about where the higher end watches are. And a Mechanica Grezza, which is Flavio Errado, and I'm sure I'm really butchering all that, who makes the Leonardo watches that we did a show on a while back. He's here they have a nice little booth. It's really cool because it's a place for several of these smaller independent Swiss brands to show their wares. It looks like Flavio is in a meeting, but I will.
Yeah, let's wave.
Wave.
Oh, there. Hi.
I'll come back. We're filming. Yeah. So let me wander over to Hall G. I am standing in line to get in. Thank you. So here, there's all kinds of things. I mean, most of the halls are not purely one thing or the other, but this is the lion's share of what you're going to find is packaging. There's Qualipack. There's a name I'm sure people have actually heard of. This is a company, Samding. These are wooden cases. Beautiful. Look at this one. That would be an excellent case for a high-end piece. Just walking around. Watch winders here with these guys. We've got, I mean, basically everything you can imagine in packaging is available here in Hong Kong. This is certainly one of the things that companies are going to come to look for. All right, Tim. Well, you've seen basically a good overview. There's just a little bit of everything here at the Hong Kong Watch Fair. I am going to wrap this up and head on to some other meetings, and I hope you guys enjoy this.
And Craig, thank you for doing this again. Just to recap, here's the voice off camera. My name is Tim. I'm going to talk about watches, and we have been live at the Hong Kong Watch and Clock Fair, obviously in Hong Kong. And Craig's been kind enough to move us through as a tour in real time. So I hope you guys liked it, and thank you for watching. We'll see you back really soon for another edition of Talk About Watches Live. Please share this around and like our channels. We'll see you back soon. Thanks, everybody.